Good afternoon, students. Welcome to art once again. I'm going to wait just a second to get started in case we have anyone who's joining us live today. Our project today, we're going to be doing a perspective piece, and we're going to be just talking about how sometimes with art, because of perspective, what we consider a rule can sometimes be broken. So in the past, when we've talked about perspective and we look at a landscape, if you think about the landscapes we did a couple weeks ago, the Tuscan landscapes, everything in the picture, as you move from the bottom to the top, everything gets further away, correct? So in the past, we won't look at these that we're doing today, but in the past, everything that is in this is usually foreground, midground, background, and that can kind of be a little bit fluid, but generally, as you move down your page, or if it's landscape, if you move down the page, things here are closer to you than things back here. A lot of times we have our sky, we may have mountains or trees, and then we have things in the foreground, maybe flowers or bushes for landscapes. So today we're going to look at do a drawing that is a little bit different. We still will be having things get smaller as they move away from us. So that's our 1-point perspective. But our foreground has shifted, and our foreground is now here in the top of our page because of a change in perspective. So the things that are closest to us in this picture are the birds. So in order to see this this way, where might you be? You could be up on a hill that's looking down, and maybe those birds are somehow across, the telephone lines that they're on, or power lines are somehow right across from where you're sitting up on a hill. You could be looking out your window, and those lines are there. There we go. Sorry about that. There's a little pause there. Somehow, you're able to see these birds straight on. Maybe you climbed a tree and you're able to be parallel, looking straight on at these birds, and then off in the distance, still what's furthest away from you could be behind the birds, the sky, but also, the furthest away little telephone pole here that we'll be drawing. All right, so I posted a few pictures of bird silhouettes. To remind you, a silhouette is when you can just see the outline of something, and because there's light behind it, the outline, the subject appears very dark, and you just see the form itself without detail. And you can create a silhouette, sometimes even if you could borrow your parents' phone and have maybe them stand in front of a bright window and tap on the light around them, their body will become a silhouette, because the camera will focus on the light. That's how our eyes kind of do the same thing as a lens and a camera. It's hard for us to see details when there's light behind the subject. So that's how we create a silhouette here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on the process here of creating these birds on a telephone line. So you can look at the birds I posted. These are pretty simple ones. Some of the ones I posted may have had a little more detail. Some of them are a little cartoonish. Some of them are more realistic. So you will need a half sheet of paper, a pencil and eraser. You will need a permanent marker like a Sharpie, and you will need either watercolor. Oh, you'll need a yellow crayon, and then or yellow. I even used on one of mine. I used a green yellow, that really bright yellowish green, a yellowish crayon. And then you will need either crayons or watercolors to complete this. All right, I'm going to turn that over. There's a little mark on it. All right, the first, and a ruler. We don't want to forget our ruler because we're doing a little bit of perspective here. So first, I'm going to have you not use your ruler, but we're going to draw a line that's going to be our horizon line. And again, this is a little different because our foreground is going to be above, on the paper, it's going to be above our horizon. So this is different than what we've done in the past. Our horizon line, and it's going to be somewhere towards the bottom of the page. So somewhere in that bottom, about third or quarter. So if you divided your page into quarters, you're going to draw a horizon line. And I don't want you to use your ruler because I want this line to be kind of, doesn't have to be perfectly straight. It could have a few little bumps in it. And that's going to represent some water. We're looking off into a horizon that looks over water. And then we're going to have a road. This is where our perspective comes in, our 1 point perspective. So let's put a point right here, just right on the edge of that horizon line. And a lot of times when we've done 1 point perspective, we'll put it in the middle, and you'll have maybe a road that comes toward that line. This is a little different. We're going to have it here on the edge, and then you're going to leave yourself a little bit of room here. You're going to draw a line to represent a road that moves toward that vanishing point. So from that vanishing point, I'm going to draw a line here. And then I'm going to draw a second line to give me a guide for my telephone poles, you see here. So you kind of know what's coming. So I'm going to draw another line here. And if you want to make this one a little bit lighter, you'll be erasing it later. So it might be a good idea to not make it. And this one, have it come up not quite halfway up your page. So if you kind of look at where your ruler is sitting here, not quite halfway up. And I'm actually going to make mine a little lower. Give me plenty of room for my birds. And lightly draw that line. So it's there. Hopefully you can see it. But it's not, I'll be erasing it later, so I didn't want it to be too strong of a line. Now next, we're going to draw our telephone poles. And so, this is, the one that's closest to us is right here. In this version of perspective for this particular piece. And so I'm going to make a line here, and we want it to be parallel to our to the sides of our page and perpendicular to our horizon line. So, but it's going to still come all the way down. This is a street here, and so it's not landing in the ocean. It's landing down here in the street. So if you look here, you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. It could be an ocean, it could be a lake, a body of water. So I'm going to draw a line here, and then I'm going to draw a line here. And as I move away, I'm going to have my telephone poles maybe start getting a little bit closer together, because they will appear a little bit closer together. Make sure my lines stay parallel to the sides of my page and perpendicular to my horizon line. I'm drawing kind of a lot with this one. You don't have to draw as many as I'm drawing. I've got it gotten, but I'm actually probably gonna, well, I'm drawing more than you probably need to here. So I have a lot of telephone poles here, probably more than I need. I might actually go back and erase. Well, I'll leave them. It won't take long to draw them all. Okay, so there's my line. I'm going to keep going back down here. They're going to get tinier and tinier. Okay, and then with each telephone pole, you have these horizontal poles that help hold the lines on. And so we're going to draw a short one and a long one. And they need to kind of, if you wanted them to go in a line, you could. Or you can just eyeball it. We don't have to have perfect poles here. In fact, if you wanted some of your poles to just be a little bit different than the others as far as their height, that'd be fine. That'd probably be a little more realistic because they may not all be exactly the same. Little lines coming down. Okay, I have a big line of telephone poles, and I have my street, I have my ocean, and then this is the sky. I'm going to go ahead and erase this line. Give me the guide, because I want to make sure I don't draw over that. Okay, next I'm going to draw my foreground lines that my birds are going to be on. So these are kind of going to be hanging. They have some weight on them because the birds are there. So I'm going to kind of go like this and like this. And we'll do one more like that. So do they have to be perfectly the same? So, no, they don't. So just 3 lines, and then we'll get to draw our birds. Now I have mentioned already, I put some helper pages of bird silhouettes you can look at. I'm going to keep mine pretty simple here and start drawing some little bird shapes here. Nice and chubby. Fat birds are the cutest. That guy needs a little bit bigger head. So drawing my nice little birdies. We'll do one like this. Give him a nice big belly. Oh, he's a little too big. Okay. And maybe this one I'll give him some little extra tail feathers that come down. Now these are going to be silhouettes, so if you wanted to do some extra, drawing, adding on later, you could just erase that because sometimes it does show up behind the black marker. But let's see, I'll do one that's sitting sideways. Kind of like a little dove. And then we'll do a fat one standing here because that'll be fun. He looks kind of funny. All right. So have fun with these. Use the little helpers I gave you. He's actually going to be standing here looking kind of like he wants to be in charge because he's big. But it's really going to be the little guy that's in charge. This little guy right here. He's really taking his orders from this guy. He's small but mighty. And let's get a couple more birds on a line here. This one kind of reminds me of a vase or something. I'm going to give him some tail feathers. And we'll just do one more. So I did 3, 3, and then we'll do 2. On my other ones, I think I did 4, 3, and 3. So, 2 to 4 birds on each line, I think is good. Enough to make your eyes kind of have some variety in what they're looking at, so the birds don't all look the same, but there's still some fun variety. This guy looks like a little chick, maybe I'm gonna give him some extra little feathers too, just for fun. Okay, so have fun with your birds. Okay, I am ready now that I have all of these little birds drawn. I'm ready to add my to start doing my marker. Okay. So if you want to use a Sharpie, if you have a fine tip Sharpie, you might like using that, kind of like what we did last week with our animals. I'm going to go with just a regular Sharpie, just because that might be something that everyone has. Make sure I got one that worked well. And I'm going to start outlining. I'll start with outlining my birds and filling those guys in. I'll start working a little more quickly here. And I found that it's if you feel like some of your birds look kind of funny, once they turn into silhouettes, they're very forgiving. I think some of mine might look a little funny, but a lot of it is just the whole package here. So when you look at the whole picture, you may not look so much at specific birds as you do at just the whole picture, because the stunning sky that you're going to color or paint behind these fun little birds. And I'm actually going to move to a fatter marker just to speed this up because I can. All right, if I have one that works well. And if for some reason you do not have a marker, a black marker, or all your black markers have gone, as my mom would say, gone kapluki, they're not working well, then use a black crayon. A black crayon will totally work for this. Okay, then I'm going to get these little feet drawn. This is where a little fine tip marker might be nice, but we're going to stick with the fat one for now. Little feet, because it'll still look good. And the reason why we're doing our birds first is they are the closest thing to us. They're in the foreground. Yeah, this bird's head looks kind of funny. We'll say he's looking away from us. He's facing the other way. We're looking at his back. And so we're going to do those first to make sure they get fully colored in. And then we will draw the lines that they're sitting on so they look like they are slightly behind them. Okay, now I'm going to draw the lines that those birds are sitting on. I'm going to go back to my regular marker here and draw these lines right up to the birds and behind or under them. And I'm going to get a little paper to put underneath me here. So I'll get marker on my table. This might be a good idea for you too. I'm sure your parents would appreciate you not getting permanent marker on their furniture. There was a time I had to really keep markers. Like if I saw a Sharpie, it was like an emergency because I had kids that would get them and try to color on things they shouldn't. I don't have that issue anymore because my kids are grown up, but I remember it well. All right, now we're going to, let's go ahead and do our street. That's the next closest thing to us. So I'm going to take this fatter marker because I can here and get this done a little more quickly. I'm going to get this street squeaky marker. Get the street done. It's going to be all black. If you're doing this with a crayon, with your street, now if you wanted to, you could even use perspective, and you could do a line down the street and do stripes. I know a couple of you did that on your Tuscan landscapes. You had roads going over the hills. And I loved that. That was a great idea. I love seeing you use some of the art principles you've learned in other projects we've done and applying them to your current project. So, you know, I'm showing you the general things to do here, but this is going to be your work of art. All right, now we're going to draw these telephone lines because they're the next thing that's close to us. And so I'm going to try not to push way too hard because I don't want these to look way too fat. So one little thing to give these a little more depth I found is if you do just a little, these ones that are closer to you, you almost have like a little, fill in just a little bit, make it a little thicker close to the pole. If you look at actual telephone line, that's a lot of times they have like some bracing material and stuff, and so there is a little bit of thickness there, so it doesn't look, it'll give it just a little more depth, make these just look a little more realistic. And I'm not using a ruler on this because I think I personally want my poles to look like they were hewn out of actual trees. They're mostly straight, but it could have a little bit of imperfection to them. Try and get a little bit lighter without pushing down as these poles get further away from me. I drew a lot of poles for this piece, a lot more than I did on my other ones. That's okay. I want them to go all the way down to the ground each time too. Go and get all these little lines drawn. And then a few more little okay. And finally, I'm going to give myself a very fine line here. Now this is up to you. If you don't want to have a line on for your kind of body of water that we're putting right here that the road kind of sits on, you don't have to. I decided I kind of liked the look of a little bit of a definition here of black. So if you want to just have yours, your color end here and not do this line that I'm drawing right now, that's fine. I kind of was not sure which way I liked it better, so I'd love to see some of yours, but I'm going to draw it here just so you guys can see it really well too, since it's easier for you to see where the lines are for this tutorial. All right, I'm going to erase any extra pencil lines I don't want. Now comes the color. So the first thing we're going to do is take yellow or that really yellowish green color, and we're going to draw. I'm actually going to get this one. Yeah, I'll get this. And I'm going to draw some stars in the sky. Just randomly put some dots, different. Some of them are brighter, some of them are more dull, some might be clustered. If you know about some constellations you want to put in the sky, you could have fun with that. So stars in the night sky. This is kind of supposed to be like a dusk type. So the sun is there, but you also have some stars in the sky. It's a twilight kind of a time. And it's a really pretty hour or a pretty few minutes of the day. Okay, I have a good number of stars here, kind of randomly, maybe a few right on the edges. All right, now that I have my stars, and I have them just up here around the birds, I'm going to start making my sky. So we're going to start at the top and move our way down. And like all skies, we want all of our lines that as we're coloring or painting, we need them to be moving horizontally. Now, I'm going to show you, you can do this with crayon. I'm going to do it with watercolor, but you would use the same techniques that we've done in our other crayon skies, like we did with the flamingos. Horizontal lines and blending. So blending from darker to lighter, and then down here you can do some blending to give that nice sunset sky. Okay, I'm going to do it with watercolors, partially because it'll go faster. And I know you are going to be ready to get to work. Get a little bit of water put into my little cup here. And we're going to start with, I'm going to put a little bit of purple. I didn't do this my first one I did here. I just did dark blue and made it get lighter. I'm going to blend a little bit of purple in the sky this time. So there's my purple. And if you recall, when you have crayon, the watercolor kind of, or the crayons kind of repel the watercolor. So a little bit of purple here in the top. Pick up a little more pigment there. You want it to go all the way up to the edge, so put something underneath you if you need to. And my stars are coming through nicely. One thing, if you have really dark, if you're using liquid watercolor, or if you have really, you have a lot of pigment on your brush, it's less like, it could cover up still that crayon. So a little more water will help. It actually does a little better to repel, if you see there, with a little more water. Now we're going to add I'm going to add a little bit of blue. Let's go to this darker blue. And I'll offer, again, I have many watercolor sets. So if your watercolors are getting low, or if you just don't really care for the set you have, I have, I think, about 30 watercolors. I have a classroom set of watercolors. They all have a brush. And I am happy to loan them out for you if you need a set of watercolors. And you can paint right over your birds here. The black will still show up. And I'm going to just have this get lighter and lighter as it gets down to where the sun is setting, because that night sky gets darker here, kind of blending into the purple. And then it gets lighter as we move down, so more water on your brush. You don't have to add white. You just have a little more water on your brush to thin out that pigment. And have it go just below the, little more water there, just below the that bottom telephone line. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the other colors we're going to use. And I'm going to start with my pinks and reds I'm going to put in mine. If you want to do oranges, you can do your sunset sky however you would like to. I'm going to put a little bit of red here. Oh, and remember, you're not painting, maybe we'll do that next actually. Well, no, we'll go ahead and do this. You're not painting below this line here. This is going to be your sea, your ocean, or your lake, whatever you decide it is. But your body of water here. It could actually be grass. You could wouldn't have to be water. I am envisioning it being water, but you're the artist. It's something off the road. So this could be a horizon of green grass, whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of red in my sky down here close to where the sun is setting. And I'm going to put a little bit of pink around it. Oh, that's not looking very pink. I think my red's mixing with my pink a little bit. Put a little bit over here. And a little bit over here. And a few streaks of pink up here. So notice how all my lines, I have this turned. Okay, so you know, because that's not comfortable for me. This is more comfortable. But my lines are still going horizontally across the page. So find what's comfortable for you. If this is uncomfortable to paint like this, you can turn your page. That's the nice thing about having a small page. And then I'm going to get a little bit more of that red to mix in there. Have some streaks of really dark within that lighter pink. And then we're going to I'm going to go with some yellow and orange here. So we're going to put some yellow. I'll clean out my brush a little better. Okay. Start getting some yellow here. It hits the sky. If a little bit of that blends in, it'll just make it look more realistic. Just coming right up into that blue. See if you can kind of blend that in a little bit. Maybe even have a little bit of, add a little bit of pink as a barrier there. So that's not a hard line where it meets the blue. Maybe even a little bit of pink up into the blue part. And then let's go back to the yellow. So you're just kind of having fun here. We've done lots of sunsets, sunrises. We've done a lot of these in the past with other pieces we've done. So you know you can make every sunset is different in real life and in art. I'm going to put some orange now down here. And then I'm going to finish up with a little bit more yellow. Now let's stop and look. I'm going to stop and look at my sunset, see what I think about. Make sure I don't have any white spots. Look for white spots where you haven't filled in. Could take something, have something underneath you, underneath your page, so you can go all the way off your page. Okay, there is my sky. Now we're going to, I see a little bit at the top. I want to blend up here. A little bit of purple, a little bit of, I want to get that white covered. Okay, now I'm going to do my water, and I'm going to make it kind of like, I want it to be different than the sky color. So I'm going to use this kind of turquoise color, and I think I'm going to mix a little bit of green with it. Because a lot of times bodies of water don't necessarily look really blue. And at night they may even look more green if the sky has yellow in it. Because what does blue and yellow together make? It makes green. So I put a little bit of green in my water. Kind of a Caribbean color here. And taking it, get my all right, and I am done. So we have foreground here, and then oddly enough, this is kind of our midground. Even we have our perspective here, but the closest thing to us is up here in the sky. And then we come here, we get our 1 point perspective, and then we have the rest of the sky does get further away as we move up into the night. I'm so excited to see your birds on a line silhouette work here. And again, remember you can use crayons. I want you to use a medium you can blend with. So markers are not ideal for blending. We want to be able to blend our colors unless you have good blending markers like alcohol-based markers. But the best things to use would be crayons. Colored pencils could work, but they may not be as bold, and you'll have to be more careful about coloring around because the pencil will show up on top of this black. And so watercolor, crayon, those are your two best bets here. And I'm excited to see your work here. 1 point perspective and an atypical foreground.